One fine morning, a man named Robert woke up to see snow falling outside. As he peered out his window, he couldn't get over the strangeness of what else he saw. All the houses on his street seemed to be garlanded with bright electric lights and bizarre decorations, deer and candy canes and big colored orbs. Is this a dream? He thought to himself. Then the smell of freshly baked cookies wafted upstairs, as well as the rich scent of a delicious gravy dinner. The smells and sights were a shock to his senses. He had no idea what was happening. When Robert trudged down the stairs, wiping the sleep from his eyes, he noticed that his house was full of weird decorations, tinsel and lights and trees and fake gingerbread houses, just like all the other houses on the street. He paused at the bottom of the steps, his eyes landing on his family. They were all wearing clothes with similar color schemes and symbologies. Perched on each of their heads were red hats with a white fur trim and a fuzzy ball hanging off the end. What is happening here? Puzzled, he asked his wife what was going on. It's Christmas, the most wonderful time of the year, but to him, this all felt like a bizarre practical joke. That's when his kids chimed in. It's Christmas, Dad. It's Christmas. It's Christmas. It's Christmas. They're in on it too. He felt like he's going insane. He looked around the room and saw a statue on a nearby cabinet. A big jolly fellow with a white beard in a red suit, wearing a hat just like the ones his family are wearing. It's like a living nightmare. We here at SCP Explained would like to wish a very Merry Christmas to all who celebrate it. And we hope you don't get a visit from the Yule Man this year. Pleasantries aside, you might have heard our opening story and thought, what just happened there? What did poor Robert do to deserve all that? The truth is, Robert didn't actually do anything. The surreal horror he just experienced is SCP-7525. And it's all down to something he didn't do in the previous year. He didn't listen to the 1984 Christmas single Last Christmas by Wham. In 2001, the SCP Foundation first documented an extremely bizarre phenomenon. Anyone who hadn't listened to Last Christmas since, well, last Christmas, would appear to completely forget that Christmas is a concept that even exists. And we're not just talking about memory loss here. One of the running theories is that the affected individuals, referred to as SCP-7525-1, are replaced by a version of themselves that doesn't know about Christmas, and in some cases, they disappear entirely. Why did this anomalous effect first manifest decades after the song's release? Foundation researchers believe it's down to the immense popularity of the Whamageddon game, which has the following key rules. The player must go as long as possible without hearing Wham's Christmas song, Last Christmas. The game starts on the 1st of December and ends at the end of December 24th. Only the original version of Last Christmas applies. The player can listen to remixes and covers of the song. The player is out as soon as they recognize the original version of the song. As you can intuit from this, anyone who plays Whamageddon particularly well will almost inevitably become an instance of SCP-7525-1. This is something that the SCP Foundation is extremely eager to avoid, due to the risk it poses to consensus reality. Because of the very strange nature of this anomaly, even by the standards of an organization that regularly deals with reality-warping psychopaths and dangerous monsters, containing and understanding it has presented some interesting challenges. The general consensus among researchers and containment specialists is that the answer can be found in info-immunization. This is the practice of warding off some kind of mimetic effect, in this case exposing as much of the population as possible to Last Christmas every year, including the very staff of the SCP Foundation. The Foundation also makes every effort to locate and shut down efforts to create a Whamageddon initiative, which risks exposing further people to the anomaly and potentially endangering their place in reality in the process. Its classification categories don't speak to SCP-7525 as a particularly high-risk or dangerous anomaly. Its containment class is Euclid, showing it won't present a severe risk to Foundation containment procedures. Its disruption class is Wham, meaning that its anomalous abilities can affect multiple people, but is unlikely to extend beyond a small group, with its effects being relatively simple for the Foundation to neutralize. On top of that, its risk class was rated as Caution, one of the lowest levels available. Its effects are mild at best, and are unlikely to pose a threat to the Foundation or to consensus reality. After all, how could an anomaly that makes people forget Christmas if they haven't heard a cheesy Christmas song within a year really be any kind of dangerous? And besides, Last Christmas will always be played, so it's a problem that ultimately takes care of itself. That's the logic of Dr. Elroy Tashi, a researcher from Memetics who also acted in a supervisory position on the case, who appended a note to the file saying, "Testing has been discontinued and containment is now unnecessary due to the info immunization's ubiquitous deployment and the expungement of the info hazard. The anomaly has been reclassified as Euclid, and the relevant teams have been reassigned. Merry Christmas." But there were some more surprisingly sinister turns to this story. Not long after Dr. Tashi suspended all of the procedures, another researcher, Dr. Brant Ferret, director of the Cryptozoology Department, appended an additional note to the file regarding a strange incident that occurred in 2016. It read, "A junior researcher was detained at Site 239 due to unconventional behavior on November 8, 2016, and was determined to be an SCP-7525-1 instance after searching the Foundation database. Their browsing history includes whamageddon websites. I have been unable to contact the original research team. The containment procedures appear to be unstaffed and defunct. Furthermore, the SCP-7525 file has been locked and reclassified from Level 1 to Level 3 confidential for no apparent reason. The supporting research documentation normally expected of an anomaly like this appears to be non-existent. The matter has been escalated pending further investigation." And the investigation started to turn up unusual results, especially regarding Dr. Tashi, the lead researcher on the SCP-7525 case. He'd undermined the potential dangers and risks of the Last Christmas anomaly from the very beginning, and since lowering the safeguards, he'd been promoted to the site director of Site 31. However, as holes in the net started to appear, Dr. Tashi seemed to fall off the map. A strange coincidence, or something more. Whamageddon was reintroduced into Foundation web trawler technology, and Last Christmas was also made a part of the Foundation's info immunization project. Whamageddon, it seemed, may have been a little more than just a fun, quirky trend inspired by the overplaying of an old Christmas song. Instead, it might be a concerted effort by a new and hitherto unknown group of interest. The administration of one of the more popular and effective Whamageddon websites was traced back to the dorms of a high-security prison in the United States, where Foundation mobile task forces intercepted. Shockingly, they were met with heavy armed resistance from the prisoners and staff, more than eager to fight to the death to protect whatever secrets were hiding inside. And naturally, that made the Foundation even more curious. The group, tentatively named GOI-7525, were living under unusually pleasant conditions for high-security prisoners. They'd all been exposed to strange cult-like literature that seemed to claim that celebrating holidays, such as Christmas, Hanukkah, and even Cinco de Mayo, were unnatural and wrong. Why anyone in this group believed this is still a mystery, but the Foundation had a strong feeling that this had something to do with Dr. Tashi, his disappearance, and his strange eagerness to suppress the full containment procedures around the case. The connection theory was further substantiated when they found Foundation equipment and expired credentials at the complex. Questioning the survivors didn't yield any positive results, other than realizing that everyone there had been cut off from any developments in pop culture from the time of their incarceration, some dating back years. This was already a mystery going far stranger and deeper than they'd imagined. But a look beneath the surface would only reveal so much more. An internal investigation into Foundation employees potentially affected followed, revealing that 809 members of staff had visited a Whamageddon website. And these weren't just rank-and-file pencil pushers. Multiple members of the Ethics Committee recused themselves from the investigation out of fear of conflicts of interests. And in the process of all this investigation, they uncovered the most bizarre and disturbing truth of all. a series of classified test logs compiled by, you guessed it, Dr. Elroy Tashi regarding the true nature of SCP-7525. In the first test, Dr. Tashi wanted to see whether the SCP-7525 phenomenon would occur if someone didn't hear Last Christmas over the course of the Christmas season. The results were negative. You could avoid the song for an entire Christmas and still retain a life full of memories regarding the holiday, with no risk of disappearing either. In the second test, which Dr. Tashi conducted all the way back in 2002, he wanted to see whether or not listening to the otherwise inescapable song for a full calendar year would activate the effect. And it did. All the D-Class personnel deprived of the song for a calendar year completely forgot about the existence of the holiday. And with this, the anomaly was immediately upgraded to Keter Class, with a worldwide info immunization plan put in place and all whamageddon events reclassified as info hazards. In the third test, things got even more concerning. Dr. Tashi wanted to test whether the anomaly was activated by a year of not listening to Last Christmas, even if it wasn't a calendar year. In other words, if you hadn't listened to Last Christmas from June of 2001 to June of 2002, would you still forget Christmas? And disturbingly, the results were the same here too. Christmas was erased from the minds of the test subjects, and even more disturbingly, some test subjects disappeared entirely. This supported the idea of some kind of bizarre quantum switch. It wasn't that the subjects had the memories erased from their minds, but that they were replaced by alternate versions of themselves that did not remember Christmas. And in the case of some of these switches, an alternate was never provided, meaning that the person simply vanished entirely. While some were concerned, Dr. Tashi was fascinated. All of this madness can be avoided with info immunization, a fancy schmancy way of saying listening to some stupid overplayed Wham song. It got him wondering, are there similar anomalies out there intrinsically tied to our shared awareness of the zeitgeist of pop culture? How much is the media we consume informing the very nature of our existence? It was all so much bigger than one holiday and one Christmas song. This mentality is what began Test 4. A serious breach of ethics even from the SCP Foundation's incredibly loose point of view. He gathered 100 members of D-Class personnel and trapped them inside Site-77, hoping to perform a multi-year experiment on them, all where he completely isolated them from all cultural media, with 10 subjects released each year for preliminary testing. It was, by anyone's definition, cruel and unusual, but would it yield results? The experiment ran for 4 torturous years, from 2003 to 2007. After the first year of complete memetic isolation, 10 subjects were released for testing. The test subjects lost all knowledge of Christmas, pumpkin spice lattes, and the 1994 sitcom Friends, but this would just be the tip of the iceberg. By the time the next 10 subjects were released for preliminary testing in 2005, these subjects showed even more of a diversion from the consensus reality of the general public. The subjects completely forgot the beloved and extremely popular 2002 song Spider Nest by Anastasia Beltz, and also couldn't agree on the particular plot points of the Star Wars sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, from the year 1980. They also showed a lack of general knowledge about various real-life issues, even ones that they were shown to be aware of prior to their internment at Site-77. After this, they were released for memetic treatment so they could reintegrate into society. Some of the others would not be so lucky. In 2006, the next wave of test subjects were released for observation. These subjects were violent and unruly as a result of what they'd experienced, and needed to be restrained before the interview segment of the experiment could commence. Between them, Tashi logged thousands of cultural discrepancies, suggesting a vastly warped mindset as a result of memetic isolation. They believed that the book Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was not about the titular character Harry Potter, but instead about a character called Casey Platt. Test subjects agreed on the existence of a fictitious state called North Alaska, with remarkably consistent descriptions between them. They all held unconventional views about the stars, diverging sharply from consensus reality. After their interviews, researchers discovered they lacked 23% of the key cultural fault lines that form from the consensus human memeplex, leaving them out of step with a shared understanding of culture. There were even concerns raised about them experiencing potentially irreversible cognitive decline. But even that was nothing compared to the horrors of 2007. In a manner not dissimilar to the Russian sleep experiment, the test subjects were hideously disfigured and screamed in abject horror when the researchers saw them. Their speech was incomprehensible to the researchers. Later analysis showed it seemed to be a strange variation of English, with grammar and vocabulary 3 times more complex than the base language. The test subjects all found humanity unrecognizable and mostly incomprehensible. The test subjects were shocked and horrified by racism, poverty, global warming, scarves, the war on terror, carnivorism, dancing, spelling competitions, alcohol, pets, the 1969 moon landing, and countless other significant and insignificant details. The test subjects recalled hundreds of thousands of events and concepts they considered missing from the world, the details of which have proven difficult to translate to comprehensible concepts. Alignment with consensus humanity failed. Although the cosmetic corrections and redundant heart removals were successful, each subject expired upon mimetic reintroduction therapy, all from being deprived of all cultural touchstones for only 4 years. Witnessing these terrible results, the ethics committee called for the experiment to be brought to an immediate halt. The remaining 60 subjects, all in a similar state to the ones found in the 2007 test, were ordered to be sealed away in Site-77 forever, hiding Dr. Tashi's terrible mistake. All these revelations border on cosmic horror in how they rewrite our understandings of ourselves and our world, leading back to the release of a corny Christmas hit in 1984. What does all this mean, you might be wondering? In many ways, it's a grim reminder. We can't exist divorced from our culture and its ideas. And when we're divorced from those ideas, well, we become something else entirely. Now check out SCP-4666, the Yule Man's Sad Origin Story, or A Keter Kind of Christmas, for more.